drinks tea. Well, my Uncle Angus drinks tea, but then he is not a true Scotsman. That's like here, life science is not HPC. So I took this nice guy, Bruce, a former king of Scotland, to be my representative Scotsman. So why is this a personal view on HPC and life sciences? We have the tier system here in Germany and the National Association for HPC, an NHR. And if you now look on, let's say, for instance, the map, an interactive map of the Gauss Alliance, another association in Germany for HPC, then you see nice dots, and this is here where I come from, and so it's recognized on the map. But here in Würzburg, there is apparently no HPC cluster. However, if I look on the website, that's different, and there is perhaps also another difference when it comes to bureaucracy. Because, well, the other day I've heard applying for HPC resources is easy and straightforward, but if you actually apply as a PI in the life sciences, you have to answer for all these questions, and then some, like for every software you have to use, you have to list like where is it, which license, whether you know the developer, and something like that. And if you try to tabulate that for, let's say, a few dozens of softwares, you have something to do, because this is what biological or other data-driven workflows constitute. And of course, then you have to argue that your code is scaling in terms of flops, which is just a theoretical figure. And if you do something like integer manipulations, you don't have flops, which is also an issue when it comes to life sciences. So until there is some change in this, you can ask for help. Perhaps your friendly support scientist at the HPC group can navigate you through the process. And otherwise, that's what many people do, and it's of course a waste of resources. They tell you they buy their own equipment, and perhaps you can at least address the university's heads that you do so, because it's a waste of money. So, and you can ask yourself, well, is your HPC site providing software? Are you able to install it yourself? If not, yeah, and or is it provided? How long do you have to wait? And how complete is that software provisioning? Because otherwise you can't get started. And then there's Conda, and some HPC sites dislike using Conda for performance reasons, because Conda is slower, but that doesn't have to be that way, because, well, you can actually recompile on the fly if you really want to. And Conda is, yeah, it's strictly not a necessity for workflow managers, but many workflow managers, and I can speak about it, rely on providing software by Conda. They can also use HPC environment modules or container-based software, but in essence, Conda is the way to go. And then there is the sad story that actually no build system, we have quite a few talks, but it covered 100% of all researchers' needs, and that also applies here. And when I say life sciences, it's also workflow managers are also used in any kind of data-driven research, not necessarily life science alone. So the question for you is, if you want to apply, is the software provided, or will it be provided in due time? So we can ask ourselves, how Scottish does HPC have to be? And we can say here, or let's say you are a life scientist or data journalist and you want to analyze lots of data, for instance, a single cell genomics pipeline here, whatever that is here. Single cell means lots of data points and presumably lots of samples, because you have a cohort to study, and then your friendly HPC scientist might say something like that along the line. Yeah, see how you can get going. Does it have to be that way? Well, there are workflow management systems particularly designed for that kind of purpose. We've heard a few, some try to reinvent the wheel. There's Nextflow, there's Nine, there's Galaxy, there are others, and there's SnakeMake. And I take that as an example because I contributed to SnakeMake and make it actually HPC portable. So when you want to use a workflow management system, obviously what you need to do is you need to have some knowledge about your cluster, and you need to understand the workflow system, and you have to have some domain knowledge. This is always you as a researcher, and you need to install the software on the fly or whatever. So if you as a user know all that, that's fine, and then you can get started. Otherwise, well, you have to ask yourself, how far does the cluster support go? Yeah, for obviously, you don't know that. Okay, we can again ask, well, how Scottish do we have to be? So if you need a SQL database, the answer frequently is HPC doesn't deal with SQL. Yeah? It's not entirely true. My colleagues here from the Lattice QCD department have a big SQL database, and we repurpose an entire login node for that purpose, but that's physics, that's not life science, right? And hence, yeah, not HPC. You can also ask, well, I need to connect a microscope because I have heavy computing to do. And then again, well, that's not real-time computing, or is it? So a workflow management system, okay, like this one here, allows you to actually do real-time computing and connect your SQL database or any other producing device, like for instance a microscope, and takes on some queue and notices whenever some new file is there and then triggers an HPC job. That can also be used for, I just took the deconvolution example, it's not necessarily what you do there, is usually a complex workflow, like let's say you have a stack of images, you want to deconvolute it, then you do some fiducial tracking of some particles within your 3D volume, and that's what you need HPC power for, and that's where, that's where this comes in handy. For an enormous amount of data if you want to. Sometimes people tell us, well, our basement server is faster than your system. Yeah, and then the tip is then just, or the hint is, yeah, avoid I/O contention. But how do you do that as a user? User then have to learn how to stage in their data onto a node, onto a RAM disk or whatever. Yeah? Now, SnakeMake can do that for you. A simple configuration, downloadable, something like that. Let's tell you that you have to use the executor for Slurm for a batch system, any given batch system. Well, that you have to account for latency of a file system, and then here, for instance, like something like that, if it's in a Slurm environment, it will stage in all data here, and if not, it might use, if it's calculating on a login node for some little plot and there is anything to stage in and out, then it might do so locally. So SnakeMake or any other workflow system capable of such things does the stage in and out process for you as a user, and you don't have to think about that. Yeah, I didn't pick this on one slide, so basically, it enables massive workloads without I/O contention and speed-ups and better scalability. Also, well, we as cluster vendors, of course, need to account for a little bit of RDM, research data management, and that's usually demand which is met because all HPC sites, albeit different, have their local RDM solution, and workflow systems also can account for remote files, for instance here with iRods. This is one we entertain, but it's also possible to provide links to NCBI, Dropbox, and so forth, and with different protocols for download and data management. And in the end, you need to publish, and henceforth, yeah, you can copy your results, but you can also produce a report, and then you get a browsable report with all your publishable figures, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. And then there's some other benefits which come with a workflow systems. Like, for instance, you can launch a Jupyter notebooks if you want to tinker with your plots. Yeah. Yeah, if there are no sensible parameterization already, you can apply some defaults to spawn your jobs. And it's not only used in life sciences, but elsewhere as well. Yeah. One more thing, we do have a little poster about the teaching material we developed around this downstairs. And my conclusions are here, yeah, that ought to be an integral part of, what am I doing? of curricula, because this is what you do in applied life science and applied data analysis. And some HPC centers really ought to change their attitude. So that's basically it. Are there any questions, if I may briefly? Yeah, please.